Here's a puzzle for you. A billionaire walks into the White House for a meeting. Just hours later, the President of the United States issues a threat to block a nearly finished multi-billion-dollar international bridge. So what's going on here? We need to dive into this because what happened on Monday has a lot of people wondering if a vital piece of public infrastructure is being held hostage by one person's private business interests.
You know, the timeline here is pretty much everything. Monday morning, a quiet meeting with the billionaire who owns the Ambassador Bridge. Then, Monday afternoon, a very public threat against his biggest and newest competitor. The fact that these two things happened so close together, it raises a huge question, right? Are they connected? Let's take a closer look.
All right, first things first, let's break down the threat itself and the massive project that it's actually targeting.
So there's the post, word for word. And the key phrase here is fully compensated. The president is claiming the U.S. needs to be paid back for, quote, everything we have given them. But compensated for what, exactly? That question is really at the heart of this whole thing.
The bridge in question is the Gordie Howe International Bridge. And here's the really crucial part. This is a public project, not a private one. Now get this funding deal. Canada paid for the entire $4.7 billion price tag, and in return for, land access, the state of Michigan gets co-ownership of a brand new, multi-billion-dollar asset without the U.S. federal government spending a dime.
And this is where the story gets really puzzling. See, back in 2017, this same president was a huge supporter of the project. He called it a vital economic link. He even personally fast-tracked its approval. So what on earth changed between then and now? Why go from calling it a vital link to threatening to block it completely?
Okay, so let's do what we do. Let's put the claims from that social media post up against the actual, contractual reality of the deal. So, first up, ownership. The claim was that Canada owns the whole thing, both sides. But the 2012 agreement is crystal clear on this. The bridge is jointly owned. The state of Michigan is a legal co-owner of this asset. So that claim that Canada owns the American side, it's just factually incorrect. Then there was the second claim, that pretty much no American content was used to build it. Again, this is provably wrong. The Bridge Authority has confirmed that American steel was used on the project, and of course, American workers have been on the job site in Michigan from the start. And finally, we get to the big one, the claim that the U.S. is owed compensation. And you have to ask, for what? Canada fronted the entire $4.7 billion. The compensation for the U.S. is the deal itself. Michigan gets part ownership in a massive piece of infrastructure for free, paid for by Canada. So if the official reasons don't really hold up to scrutiny, you have to wonder what else could be going on. To figure that out, let's talk about the other bridge in the story and the man who owns it.
To really get the stakes here, you just need to understand this one number, $300 million. That's the value of goods that cross between Detroit and Windsor every single day. And for almost 100 years, one private family has controlled that entire flow of cash.
That flow goes across the Ambassador Bridge. It's the only privately owned international crossing at this crucial corridor. The Moroun family has owned it for decades, collecting tolls and enjoying a very, very profitable monopoly. This new, public Gordie Howe Bridge, it's the first real competition they have ever had. And believe me, they have fought tooth and nail to stop it. We're talking about a fight that's been going on for over a decade. They've spent tens of millions of dollars on failed ballot initiatives. They've taken legal challenges all the way up to Canada's Supreme Court and lost. And they have lobbied politicians from both parties relentlessly to protect their monopoly. So let's just play this out. If the new bridge were actually blocked, who gets hurt the most? Well, the answer isn't in Canada. It's right in Michigan. Blocking the Gordie Howe Bridge wouldn't just hurt Canada. According to officials in Michigan, it hurts Michigan first. You have to remember, the U.S. auto industry supply chains are incredibly complex, and they completely depend on parts moving quickly across this border. Blocking this new, more efficient bridge would create huge bottlenecks, hurting everyone from factory workers and truck drivers all the way to you and me, the consumers. And hey, you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to this. This is a quote from Snyder. He's the former Republican governor of Michigan who actually negotiated the original deal. And his take is just devastatingly clear. He says this move harms Americans and benefits exactly one winner. One family, one private bridge, one monopoly restored. And Governor Snyder is not an outlier here. What's really striking is that the opposition to this threat in Michigan is completely bipartisan. You've got Democrats calling it economic sabotage against Michigan and saying the president is punishing Michiganders,
wealthy former Republican governor is out there explicitly naming the one family that stands to benefit. So, all of this leads to the final looming question. Given the facts and given the fierce opposition right there in Michigan, what's going to happen now?
Well, right now, we're in a standoff. It's like a high-stakes game of chicken. The White House threat is still active, but on the other side, Canada, Michigan's governor, and the Bridge Authority are all saying, nope, we're moving forward. They say construction is continuing and that the bridge is going to open on schedule.
And in a really interesting twist, the White House has also tried to, well, shift its reasoning. They're now trying to link this whole bridge dispute to Canada's trade relationship with China. But officials are having a really hard time explaining what a physical bridge between Michigan and Ontario has to do with a completely separate international trade policy. It's a bit of a head-scratcher.
Which brings us back around to this final and so far unresolved question. When a presidential policy threat comes just hours after a private meeting with a billionaire donor, is based on claims that are factually incorrect, and primarily benefits that exact same donor, you just have to ask, is this about the national interest, or is the power of the presidency being used to solve one family's private business problem?